Nursery rhyme, fairy tale, blood and wine. Turtles on the way down the line. So to each their own till we go home. Further rounds our souls must roam to and through the bed that we call
Turtles All the Way Down podcast on Southtown Media.
Hey, welcome everybody. This is Turtles All the Way Down again. Just looking forward and enjoying a great weekend. It's me and Nico Montoya. Turk couldn't make it tonight. He's got some family stuff he's dealing with, so looking out for him. I hope everything's going well. I got our next co-host, S-Man, down below, so diagonally from me, and our other host, Charles, and our frequent, not a host, but our frequent guest, and maybe might be a host one day, I don't know, Tusk. I'm glad to have everybody back. How y'all been, man?
Good.
Doing good.
Who's the ice storm of 2025?
Charles.
Oh yeah, Charles. That's my name. That's been my name the whole time.
Charles.
Get out of my head, Charles.
You cannot
too damn
penetrate
bad,
my
Charles.
helmet, Charles.
Oh, they bit me.
I was thinking back to y'all remember the old X-Man dub that they used to have over there? You know, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
I'm gonna rip this
yeah.
bitch in half. I'm gonna grab her and I'm gonna fuck her and no. A little too wild. Anything goes back in those days, man. So this week,
wild.
yeah, man. This week we're talking about the other Mario brother, Luigi Mangione, like we said we would last week. And
He's not a plumber.
not anymore.
The fifth Ghostbuster.
Yeah, the fifth Ghostbuster.
No.
Oh man. All right. So so we're gonna get into that and just treat it like we always do, have a good time and listen in and put our opinions out there. Whose idea was it last week for this topic? I'm trying to remember, was it Carlos? Was it
It was
Tusk?
Carlos or
I think I
Tusk?
brought it up.
It was Charles.
Charles.
Ah,
All right,
Very,
Charles.
King Charles.
Yes. I'm about to give a scholarly expose on a would-be assassin and his manifesto. Nah, I'm not gonna do it. I haven't even read his manifesto.
Are you talking about?
He wasn't would-be, he succeeded.
Yeah, if that's really him. It's probably him.
really?
Like
Really?
chances are it's probably him.
You got some info?
I don't have info. I know that a lot of people have been questioning the validity of this arrest since day one.
Huh. Well,
I mean-
now, according to Dave Chappelle, just by his eyebrows, it's the right
It's
guy.
the eyebrows.
It's the same
Okay.
guy.
What I think is more likely there is that the Fed fucked up and we're just being a little bit dumb. That entire conspiracy theory, for people who aren't aware, comes from an early suspect photo from like Crime Watchers New York or whatever that showed this dude with a similar looking jacket, a similar looking backpack, kind of similar looking beard, and he had very, very distinct kind of bushy eyebrows in the picture. And his face is covered by a mask. He looks a lot like the assassin in the very infamous video, but looks nothing like Luigi Mangione. And people have pointed out subtle differences that like it's very clearly a similar yet different jacket and a similar yet different backpack, slightly different coloring on the strap, slightly different pocket orientation. I think it's more likely that the FBI just released the wrong suspect photo because they literally had no idea what was going on. So when people are talking about the eyebrows, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about that original suspect photo, which is very, very clearly not Luigi in the picture, but you can tell that from just more than the eyebrows.
It's the government fucking something up, or it's the whole concept of the press and the media not caring about accuracy, but who gets the information out there first.
They're keeping something from us.
Except that
They
image was
always
released by the law enforcement. That image
Oh,
was released on-
specifically.
Yeah, that was something that the cops put out. I'm pretty sure it was a picture that the FBI put out.
Shame. That's just bad class. Well, I mean, like I said, from the photo, then is this just a random picture of some motherfucker? Like,
Yeah, like roughly similar build, similar height, white dude with a gray jacket and a backpack on that night in a subway station, kind of.
So
in
you
the
mean to
area.
tell me they found the dude that shot Trump, but they couldn't find this dude that shot this dude?
Well, they shot the dude that shot
Well, they
Trump
said they
on the
did.
spot in the moment. They recovered his body and found out
And then
about him after.
cremated him before anybody could check it out, and then raided his house.
Yeah,
and
but they
there's no
couldn't
silverware.
identify this dude. Okay.
The weird thing
He
about
wore a mask.
the
It's
weird thing about these
different.
actors, and
You
like I don't
what
know,
I'm saying?
maybe it's just like I'm grappling with my age, but to learn that Luigi is like my age is kind of a weird feeling. You know that? Yeah, I mean, I know you guys don't know Fred, but Kelsey, you know Fred. We have a friend. He's the same age as that kid who shot Trump.
Oh, damn.
Like, this is weird.
Yeah, I mean, you got little 19, 20-year-olds running around. It's like,
Hey, super soldiers, bro.
Internet accelerates everything. So, Carlos, you're thinking that
I'm
the
trying-
guy they have in custody is not the actual shooter? You think
No,
he's
I
just
think-
taking it?
No, I think he is the actual shooter. I think the FBI just released the wrong fucking picture. But that doesn't
That's
mean
possible.
but that is what a lot of people believe. You just articulated what a lot of people believe, and it's primarily because of that discretion in the two pictures and the suspicious circumstances under which he was arrested.
Well, I
Like-
think it's an op no matter what. You know, like this.
Something.
This
it's-
seems like it was narrative escalation from the viewpoint of the left.
And you
They've been
pulled
wanting to do this
and
for
you
the
pulled a
longest
photo of
time. Shit
this?
like this.
I'm
Yeah.
getting I've gotten a really weird vibe around
I've
this
never seen
entire-
it. I don't know what they're talking about.
I'm trying to pull up the picture that I can show you.
oh yeah, I'll let you do that, and you just present it on screen when you're ready, Carlos. Less work for
Can
me.
you do the photo and the dude we're talking about? Can we see
Yeah.
the resemblance?
Yep, here.
The
and
only. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to figure out how to share my screen.
Oh, the only fishy thing I've heard, really,
Just
'cause,
say
like,
present down below.
I haven't looked too much into this because I don't want to glorify this guy. It turns my stomach a little bit how people are putting him up as some kind of hero, because it was still murder, and what we're living through right now is really like a battle for our souls and shit. So I feel like people automatically trying to declare this guy a hero
So-
is a little bit twisted.
This is the original picture that they released, right? And they're like, hey, look out for this guy. There's another picture where this dude's mask is up and you can see eyebrows, which is very clearly a similar jacket, but different jacket than this. This is an actual picture of Luigi, or so people claim. People have even gone to claim that this man and this man are not the same guy. This is the guy who got arrested.
That's the guy.
Yes, this is an actual like yearbook photo or something of Luigi
Yeah.
Mangione.
And I think Mangione, I just think King of the Hill. He's living in a. Oh, he's angry right there. He's real mad.
This is
No,
from a
he
video
is
that I
a-
saw. This is from a video that I saw where he tries to shout some political thing as they're ushering him into the police station.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
making such a show out of this. And
And
the only fishy thing I've heard is that his parents run a company of nursing homes. So this may not have
Yeah.
been as noble of a killing as everybody wants to make it out
Well,
to be.
so-
But it's
so
actually
his-
personal, has something to do with his family business.
Here's how I understand the official narrative as the man has put it forward, right? He grew up rich, got into a good high school, some fancy college, and even so, ended up having like chronic back pain issues or something for a
He's
long
technically
period
an
of time.
incel. Yeah. Like, I don't
Um,
understand why
he-
leftists
he-
are propping him up if they're
he-
at war with the incels.
Either way, he had like chronic back pain for a long time. Health insurance dicked him around for a frustratingly long time. This allegedly radicalized him over the course of the last like 10 years until he decided to do something about it. And this was that. And he apparently has some manifesto that lays this all out. I don't know. I haven't read it. Here's what concerns me about this. They're trying to charge him with terrorism, right? For assassinating a guy.
I mean, it's kind of technically politically motivated.
That
Would that not
that-
count as?
No, that makes
terrorism?
it an assassination. But well, for example, the guy who shot
That's just-
Robert Kennedy, they didn't charge him with terrorism.
That's true.
He's
Yeah.
in prison right
Well,
now.
they've
Like,
they've built up so many more laws since then, though.
yeah, but assassination for political motivation is not new. I just feel like so. My concern is that there's this woman who was on the phone with some big healthcare company, and they were dicking her around. And in a moment of frustration, she said over the phone,
yeah.
deny, defend, oppose, and they charged her with terrorism. They came to her house after a phone call, arrested this woman, gave her some
that's too much.
obscene fine, and charged her with terrorism. It's like they're trying to set the precedent. That if
Yeah.
there is to be any interclass violence, we get to treat that as terrorism and use the Patriot Act to do whatever we want about that. And if that's the case, that actually does lend a ton of credence to this being an op and this individual being some sort of plant fall guy.
Yep.
And I don't really know what to think about it all other than I feel like if this had happened in 1995, it would have led to systemic changes in our society. There would have been more protests. There would have been people campaigning for change, people boycotting big insurance companies, because people felt this way back then, maybe not to this extreme of a level, but this isn't a new problem in this country. And it has been really weird to see how everybody on all political sides, everybody in the country has some sort of high energy reaction to this, either in support or disgust, but everyone is heavily opinionated about this. And nobody is out there doing anything about it, except for the Justice Departments who gets to use this to set spooky precedents. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the main reason why the people haven't joined together and do something about this, because this is not our job. This is not within our realm of something to take care of. Or not in this fashion, unfortunately. Like I have no sympathy for these, high hog motherfuckers and their companies and what they're making money and what they're doing is criminal. Yes, but the only reason why this is allowed to continue is because the system has been so corrupted. And I'm all my eggs are not in the Trump Vance basket, but like maybe something can be done if Tulsi Gabbard gets in there. Also, another thing with the RFK assassin, Sirhan, they couldn't try him with anything because he was essentially a part of the op, and as was the guy who actually pulled the trigger on him. Like they're
sure, but
and again, that got declassified, so we may be hearing more about that.
Yeah, that's kind of why I brought it up. But regardless of whether or not the guy serving time is the actual assassin, there is a guy serving time right now for the assassination of Robert Kennedy, and he is charged with murder. He is not charged with terrorism. That's an elected official. Like if you can shoot an elected official and not be charged as a terrorist in the past, but in the modern day, you shoot a guy who has a high-paying job, and that's terrorism. That's politically motivated enough to be terrorism.
Well, the difference is that the establishment and these high-paying CEO or high-paid CEOs, that's the part of the crew that wanted RFK Jr. taken out to begin with. So that was them protecting themselves. This, to me, it seems like the guy they have in custody is just the figurehead. He's the mouthpiece. Maybe he didn't pull the trigger, but this is a part of the theater. They want whatever his motivations were to be out into the public mind so people can get riled up. People can start formulating. And if we know anything about the FBI track record, then the FBI is going to insert themselves into these groups, maybe even aid and abet them, and then eventually arrest them. That's been their MO for the past 15, 20 years.
To play a little bit of devil's advocate, part of me does wonder, though, maybe like you brought up the Robert Kennedy assassination, which is a good point, which he was murdered in a kitchen, in a hotel kitchen back room, but it was on the way to a speech, a political gathering. And that could be, I'm wondering if the legality standpoint is different because this guy at 6 a.m., the CEO, he wasn't on the way to go do a speech or anything. It was just shot and killed in not broad daylight, but in just a regular street. And that's how that, from the legality standpoint, it's almost like it's worse when you're not going or you're getting ready to set yourself up on a political platform or a public speaking. I'm not that I feel like that should necessarily matter, but from that kind of legal standpoint, maybe that's why it's treated as terrorism as opposed to, which I'm not defending any of this. That's just what came to my mind, is like literally the setting itself is what determines whether or not it's terrorism. Maybe.
Possibly. I don't know.
Or it's just like the system exposing itself as to like who's really running the show. You know that. So
No,
where it's like
I'm with
you
that.
can take out a
I was playing
public
devil's
official.
advocate. I was just saying.
You can take out a political official, but if you take out the CEOs, then they're coming after you because those are the real
CEOs
movers
are more
and
important than
shakers.
I was like they're more important than the political figures.
Something else in the theater of this all that's really caught my eye is the amount of perp walks they have done this with this dude. Like this picture, I remember is from an infamous thing where they are walking him along a pier from like a helicopter to like another helicopter, but in view of a fuck ton of cameras with all these agents around him, and
Yeah.
everyone was like,
This
"That's
motherfucker
weird."
smirking right there.
And then there's this perp walk on his first day in court, which I also find really interesting because something for the conspiracy theory bait pool. This outfit, this red shirt, like red sweater with the white collared shirt underneath it and like the khaki pants,
It's
is
Ron
like
Swanson from Parks and Recreation.
no, allegedly this is the exact same outfit that Lee Harvey Oswald was wearing when they were doing the infamous
No,
perp
my
walks with him.
Ah,
Wait,
it's
hold on.
funny. Even before
no.
you said that, I was literally going to bring up the fact that I was like, it kind of makes me think they're just
Holy
leaving it
shit.
open for someone to get him the same way they got Lee Harvey Oswald. I swear that's what I was about to say. You know, you brought that up
Why?
first.
I think
No,
one
that's
reason
what
why
I
they're
want, asshole.
one reason why they're giving him so many perp walks is because the people that run these things know damn well that the internet's going to turn this guy into a fucking thirst trap. I knew it as soon as this shit hit the news. If they catch him and they don't kill him in the investigation, they're going to turn him into some kind of martyr. Turns out
that's the same outfit.
God, that's wild.
Down to the
That's a good catch.
khakis.
Different color khakis, but yeah.
And Oswald was CIA.
Yeah.
Oswald was a patsy, Tusk.
Yeah,
Listen,
but he was recruited by the U.S. Civil Air Patrol or some shit when he was 15, and he was all over the country doing all kinds of shit. They sent him to Russia. He spoke Russian as good
He did
as
speak
a
Russian. I think that was probably just to fuel the idea that he was a Soviet asset, though. But I've always personally leaned towards the theory that the federal government killed JFK. And
yeah, well, I believe the son of LBJ's personal hitman is trying to clear the family name, and last week he revealed some kind of letters that his father had written that directly implicated LBJ. Apparently, LBJ used this dude to take out his own sister because the sister was talking too much.
Oh, to have your own personal hitman. It's like a family lawyer.
His name was Max something.
Goals.
Yeah. Family lawyer, family doctor, family maid, family butler, family hitman.
Yeah, and this
even
same
the Tiger
circle of
King had one.
characters. The same circle of characters used another hitman to take out RFK, and they used Sirhan as the patsy, saying he was the gunman when really this other guy that was kind of behind Sirhan took him out. And RFK Jr. has even said he doesn't believe that Sirhan was the assassin, and he has talked to him, visited him in prison, and wants him to be released.
Well, I mean, motive-wise, RFK is definitely Sirhan is probably. He's one of the most he is very atypical when it comes to like the motive and who he was behind him wanting to kill RFK, because it's like, why?
Apparently he doesn't even remember. Like,
that too.
There's hallmarks of
that.
like straight up MK tampering. The guy that was responsible for a lot of this MK programming shit is a dude named Jolyon West. His name's spelled Jollyon. But he was
not a real name.
running and yes it is. He was running and his name was never mind. I'm not
sorry.
You know what name I'm about to say.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Jolyon West. Jolyon
West with a T.
Oh, okay, West.
Yeah. But
I didn't hear the T the first time.
He was implicated in the JFK shit with LBJ, so they were using a straight up military psyop programmer and all.
Okay, what about the guy that killed Lee Harvey Oswald? It was like Rubio or something like that. He was
Ruby,
Jack
Ruby.
Yeah, Jack Ruby. He was mob affiliated.
Marco Rubio.
Yeah, little Marco.
Hello, Marco.
He did a great thing.
The best meme I've seen of Elon Musk doing the salute was have you seen it from the side, and it's got his arm raising at different intervals, but one of the lowest ones where his arm is raised out.
I've seen that
right
too.
in front of him.
It's like
but the
petting
label
a small
on it,
child.
no, it says petting Marco Rubio.
Hell no.
Oh,
Is he
God.
short?
Mark Rubio has done wonderful things for this country.
He is a neocon and straight up pushing the false UFO disclosure
Dude.
shit.
Marco Rubio is one of the worst bootlickers on the planet, dude.
Yeah, it's not good.
Ah, God. So, in the spirit of infamous assassinations in U.S. history, this definitely goes up there. Not explicitly a political figure, and not exactly a celebrity, but still high enough level to be considered an assassination.
Yeah.
I honestly can't even compare this with any historical precedent. Like, it's not like John D. Rockefeller was shot someday, right? Like, typically rich old dudes die old and rich.
Well, one of them died on the Titanic. I can't remember which one it was.
Oh, a few
Something.
of them. There was Guggenheim, I think.
Yeah.
But fuck, was Astor. So there was almost like there's a whole conspiracy with Titanic. There was
I was about to say, yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a splinter group of aristocrats that apparently knew that they were about to set up the Federal Reserve Bank, and J.P. Morgan owned the Titanic, but he also owned the other sister ship, and he was supposed to be on the Titanic, and at the last second ended up going on the other ship. So a lot of people think that essentially the big money that would have put their capital into opposing the Federal Reserve all died on the Titanic, which paved the way for the fucking shit show we live in now.
Titanic was a setup.
Yes.
Leonardo DiCaprio, you're supporting more bullshit.
He did it.
Always.
James Cameron, fuck you. I'm just kidding. I like your movies. Unless you did it, then fuck you.
I like
Fuck
Pocahontas
you,
and
Matt
Pocahontas 2 in space.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know there's other movies that James Cameron has done, but I can't recall them right now.
Wait, did y'all see the second Avatar?
True Lies is fun.
Yeah.
Did y'all see the second Avatar?
I'm not trying to watch the first Avatar.
The Way of Water?
The Book of Water or whatever?
Dude, did
Avatar,
anyone
the
see
Book
it?
of Water. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and he has to travel to the North Pole.
Am I
with
the
a
only
big ice
one who
wall.
was
Oh, I
perturbed?
thought you were talking about the Blue Lemur people. Sorry.
I am talking about the Blue Lemur people.
Oh, why? Not on my show.
Wait, just wait. I love how James Cameron supposedly takes decades to research and like flesh all this shit out, and then you get to this alien planet and you're hanging out with a tribe of the natives, and they're clearly based off like Maori and Samoan culture, and these people just did the haka. Y'all know what the haka dance is?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
What the haka dance is.
He just straight up lifted that. It's sorry, small rant. That shit annoyed the fuck out of me.
No, dude, I completely agree, dude. Bro thinks he invented Native Americans.
Yeah,
Dude,
for real.
calm down, dog.
He discovered.
Also, that and it's too much years of research to make one of the most cliche stories that you can figure out in the first 10 minutes.
It's literally
of the movie.
been done. It's been done so many
Yeah.
times.
Hey! The mineral that they are mining on that planet is named unobtainium, or unobtainium.
Wait
The
till they
originality.
discover really hard to getium.
Right, dude?
By the way, anything in writing, by the way, I mean, everybody has their own preference, but nothing makes my asshole perk more like scrunch up when I'm like reading
Happy
any
perk?
kind of. It's not a good. It's a bad one. It's a scrunch. It's like a
It's
cringe.
an angry perk. It's a
It's a
a
bad.
clinch. It's
Yeah, like
clenched
any
fist.
kind of comics or books, and the person's last name or first name happens to sound exactly like whatever the fuck their superhero ability or profession is. Like the Human Torch, or not Human Torch, Knight Rider, and Ghost Rider being
Rider.
Johnny Blaze. I'm like, shut the fuck. The likelihood of your last name being Blaze is ridiculous.
Oh,
Like,
wait
no.
till you find out that there's a superhero named Emma Frost on the X-Men. That's also her literal name.
Yeah. So, like, I was like, that's such lazy writing, man.
Well, she
like,
turns to diamond, right?
Yeah.
Does she control snow power?
It's like an iced. It's like a cold diamond, indestructible. She makes herself indestructible, and it's like supposed to be water crystals inside her body or something. I don't know.
God, I didn't know.
Or Wolverine's original names being James Howlett because Wolverines, wolves, howling. Like, yeah, cool. So fucking original, asshole.
Yeah, and Peter Parker because Uncle Ben died near a park. Fucking lame.
Got him.
Also a porn star name, Peter Parker. He parks it wherever he wants.
Tony Stark because he really likes Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, he loved Game of Thrones. There's one thing I know about Tony Stark. Huge George R. Martin fan.
All the time.
Fucking wild.
Just wait till you see the dragons. No, I know that was a ridiculous tangent, but like for me, like I fucking can't stand when it's like, he was the greatest electrician alive. His name was James Sparky.
Well, bring it back to Lost.
Really?
Christian Shepherd.
Oh
they
yeah,
pointed that out in the show.
Christian Shepherd, dude.
So I can't remember who it was. Like in the last season, it was like Christian Shepherd. Really?
Are you
That's your
serious?
name? Are you fucking serious?
It's fucking cartoonish. I can't stand that. Well, I don't know about Luigi's name. I mean, I think that's just a fun name in general because it's such an iconic name because of the video games. But
we don't have a lot
just-
of Luigis in the modern day. That name definitely died out with an older generation.
He just checks all the boxes as to what makes like a modern internet martyr. Like I don't know if you guys remember, like 10 years ago, they released some mugshot of some dude, and all the mentally ill women on the internet started thirsting over him, and he ended up getting like a modeling career out of it. This has been going on for a while, and I feel like this is part of the psychology that's going on with leftist ops.
I don't even think this is a leftist thing. There's actually been this weird phenomenon with men who commit violent acts becoming more attractive to women. Like I've actually heard, I've heard this talked about with a ton of serial killers. But the thing is that Ted Bundy, like outside of being a serial killer, like was moderately conventionally attractive. This happens when they're not also, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That's a weird phenomenon. So how much of the obsession with Luigi right now is just some weird subconscious thing? And then you can make the justification of his violent act by comparing him to like a Robin Hood type figure.
They're definitely doing
could make
that.
him
They want to encourage more of this stuff. Like I promise you.
Totally. I mean, and
I feel like charging it as terrorism is them trying to discourage it. I feel like they're setting him up to be like a fall guy martyr.
But they need more of it. But they need more of it for them to pass the legislation to actually do it.
Maybe.
You know what I'm saying?
Anyway, sorry, Kelsey.
He's the guinea pig.
We went off on 3 tangents.
What's that, Shelves?
I said he's a guinea pig, basically.
He's a patsy, man.
He's a trial balloon, if anything.
Yeah. Testing the waters. And the fact that nobody's been out there protesting their so-called outpouring of support for this dude tells me that just told the man that they can do whatever they want. Spooky.
Are they
that
not
or
protesting
the
him?
Diddy thing covered it up, pretty well. That's probably what happened with the Diddy thing. They covered that up, probably.
I'm just saying, like when there was a criminal or a suspect in a criminal case who like had some weird justification or they became like a folk hero, traditionally in this country, there would be fuckers outside those prison walls with picket signs saying "Free Luigi" like every single day for that entire trial. And nowadays, I'm seeing a ton of that on the internet, but where is that outside of the prison walls that everyone knows he's at?
Yeah.
It's not secret. It's not even a secret where he's at. They're like, Free Luigi is something that's only screamed into the void when I feel like in America, we actually used to scream it at the prison itself, Like whether you believe in their justification for the protest or not, the spirit of protesting at all is just gone in this country.
Well, it was definitely going strong in the summer of love in 2020, and everybody else was.
You call 2020 the summer of love? I thought that was the summer of COVID.
Was that
That's not
before
the
or after
terminology
Black
I came
Lives
up with. That's what the whole conspiracy circuit called it. And it's not even conspiracy. It was just anybody not watching mainstream news during the beginning of the lockdowns. If you're watching internet coverage of what was going on in most of the majors, they nearly burnt down the fucking White House in 2020. That shit never gets talked about. I think it was like May 27th. They burnt down a historic church that was across the street from the White House. And they were really trying to get in. They had Molotov cocktails and everything. And there was this big show. You can look this up. Trump left the White House, walked across the street to this church, and everybody was thinking this was some kind of deep state signaling that he was doing.
Remember that?
You remember this? Yeah.
Yeah, is that the one where he holds the Bible upside down and everyone flipped the fuck out?
He did. He put up like a letter or something. Like it was very weird and it was dangerous, supposedly on his part, because he walked out without Secret Service.
Badass.
Shit. Where was I going? Well, okay. Another thing that could be going on right now.
Hell yeah.
It was pretty based. I mean, it was pretty fucking based. But this could have been the script play for what would have happened had Kamala won. It could be that they because Trump winning in the election,
further.
It kind of sucked the air out of all that stuff. One reason why we're not hearing a lot about Luigi anymore is because Trump won. So it could have been that part of the narratives that they were going to set up for the next 4 years under a Harris administration would have been one of corporate retribution being dealt by the people. And they would have done as they did during the Summer of Love, kind of nudge people in that direction to encourage their unrest.
So you think that was a planned narrative under the assumption that Kamala Harris was going to win, but
Yes.
but didn't this assassination happen almost a full 4 weeks after Election Day?
I don't think so. I thought it was before.
As I understand it, the Election Day was November 4th, and this was like December 4th. It was like the first
November
week of
2nd.
December.
You sure?
Election Day?
Can we, or just the timeline between these?
Hold
two
on, I need to
events?
know because that does change the
November
context of whether or not this assassination. Did you look it up?
Yeah. So I'm assuming somebody's doing it. I'm not. I'm
doing it. I'm doing it.
I think it was November 2nd.
I know tradition is election day is November 2nd, but they waited it was a little bit later this year or some shit or this last year.
Either way, it was the first week of November, and the assassination of Brian Robert Thompson, the former CEO of United Healthcare, took place on December 4th, 2024 in Midtown Manhattan. Like
Okay.
when this happened, my initial the reason I asked this is that when this happened initially on the news, I was like, does this have something to do with Trump? Right? Because no one was thinking about anything but the election since
Yeah.
Election Day for that 4 weeks in between this and this. And then this happened, and suddenly people weren't thinking about the election so much anymore. Everybody was on this weird debate train of how ethical this is or isn't, and if this is a good thing or a bad thing, if this is a hero or a villain, and it seemed like a very, very convenient political theater. Hey, look over here while we do all this crazy shit. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just I feel like the most opportune time for some narrative like this to have popped up would have been during Occupy Wall Street, where
Yeah,
the left
I agree.
and the right were essentially united against CEOs like this.
Yes.
And they started inserting identity politics and DEI stuff on the ground at Occupy. There's people that have talked about this.
Dude, I kind of feel I don't know about DEI, but I do definitely feel like the push for identity politics was the wealthiest way to get the poor people to stop talking about Occupy
yeah.
Wall Street. Mixed with
yeah.
the fact that the economic recovery from the 2008 crash came very suspiciously quickly and stayed stable for suspiciously way too long. When if you really think back on how crazy the financial crash of 2007 was, that should have been the start of our century's Great Depression. But it just
by all
wasn't.
means.
And the Obama years were, even as a child for me, always suspiciously prosperous.
It was high on hopium. They just blundered their way
It
right
was
through it
so
and printed
much
more
hopium.
money.
And
And
they were
bailed
like-
everybody out.
And they're like, hey, everybody start focusing on every single tribal division label that we can work on. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to throw them all to the wind, but we're really, really, really going to focus hard on red versus blue. And we're going to push every single moderate Democrat to the extreme left, and we're going to push every moderate Republican to the extreme right. And then everybody in the middle will just be so horrifically outnumbered that their voices simply won't matter. And whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Won't that be fun?
I think moderates outnumber the fringes, and they shifted the Overton window
I
too
think you're
far to the left.
I think you're probably right. I think they both sides run very, very effective propaganda campaigns on the internet and are very, very good at amplifying their respective voices.
It's just there's a number of independent journalists that have been around since before. Like Tim Pool got his start at Occupy Wall Street, and his personal account is that they were making headway in group cohesion and people being there under the same philosophy, left or right, it didn't matter. And then after like the first week, other groups started showing up, and they were like, yeah, we agree with you, but we need to start organizing this group by race so we can have our struggle sessions and our Maoist, fucking pity party shit. And the people that were there originally for Occupy were like, what are you talking about? This is not. And Tim Pool even said it was his first time ever encountering this in real life, the critical race approach to everything.
Yeah, something did happen to Tim Pool around Occupy Wall Street. Like, he changed. His entire online persona kind of started to shift.
Charles, what's your opinion on Tim Pool? You think he's a shill?
Yeah, I definitely think he's a shill, but I think his employer changed hands around then. Listen, I'm not going to say that. I don't know that it's fair to call him a shill in the 2000s. I think in the 2000s, Tim Pool was most likely a legitimate, independent, investigative journalist. I perceived Tim Pool throughout the 2000s kind of similarly to how I perceive Alex Jones in like the late 90s, when they were like actually out there asking questions out of curiosity and wanting to find things out. And I think at some point in the last, 15 years, both of them found some very high-paying employers that shifted their tunes down very specific directions, not only to get their message out there because they have an audience, but so that way when there's legitimate blowback from the shit that they're pushing, they have a fall guy. I mean, I have never seen a patsy done so dirty in being the fall guy than Alex Jones. Like, yeah, Alex Jones did propagate the whole Sandy crisis actor thing and probably should have been sued for that. But it's not like he was the only one saying that shit. And the right used to champion that motherfucker. Just let him take all the heat for the Sandy Hook lawsuits. And now he's like living in a box somewhere. I don't know. Listen, who, Tim Pool or Alex Jones?
Both. I think Tim Pool's made too much money at this point to where he's got so much gravity. There's no way people with actual money aren't going to take notice.
I mean, there's that whole
the same way.
The whole Tim Pool thing that happened was a good few months ago, where he was receiving aid money from Russia and said he didn't realize he was.
You want me to break that down?
Please.
Okay.
Because that's been my top contender for Alex Jones employer this whole time too.
Okay. No, well, see, Jones. People question Jones a lot because he never questions the nation whose name starts with an I.
No shit.
And yeah, the people call him out for that all the time.
England.
Yeah, England.
Ireland, man. Ireland.
Iraq.
I've never heard him talking about Ireland.
We need to send more support to Ireland. No, so
Free the Scottish.
there was a right-wing commentator named Lauren Chen, this Asian chick, pretty hot.
Sounds hot. I was literally, that was in my inner thoughts. I want to say it out loud. I'm not trying to sound sexist, but she sounds hot.
She started working with The Blaze. I don't know if The Blaze is still around, but I think that's who like Ethan Crowder was associated with, and this other idiot called Elijah Schaefer. I don't know why he has a following, but anyway, she and her husband were the ones getting money from Russia. She had been making her own content for The Blaze, then went solo for a couple of years, but she had been a guest on Temple. She made this. How do I say this without it sounding like bad or explicit? She ran the circuit between all these different political commentators. But they were paying people to supply them with content that they were already making. The whole thing that the DOJ was pushing is that Russia was paying these people in order to push Russian talking points when maybe that was a disjointed kind of communication on Lauren Chin and her husband's part, but they took that money and just paid all these creators for content that they had already made. So it was already stuff that they would have said anyway. They were just paying for the licensing to put it on their platform. And she's disappeared.
Okay, hold on real quick. I got a question. Why would you pay for something you already knew you were going to get?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That could have been the starting point of this whole operation. Like, I don't know how long this was going on for. Like,
okay,
but they were making decent money off of content that they already had, or maybe they made it like talking points that they were going to stick to anyway, which were these people's own opinions, but they only released it via Lauren Chen. It seems like Lauren Chen and her husband were the bad actors, and I would love to see that, get some more information out.
I heard I heard a completely unrelated conspiracy theory regarding Tim Pool's potential connection to Russia. I'm going to sound like a dipshit right now because I'm blanking on the fucking name, and I'm hoping that the name comes to me as I'm giving this explanation. But there's this guy that the Justice Department has been keeping an eye on for a long time. Apparently, he's some Russian fixer. Essentially, he's ex-KGB, but he also has affiliations with the Russian mob, and apparently he's like a common link. He's a suspected fixer, but he's like a common link in the lives of several people who are suspected to be compromised Russian assets in the United States. And even if he's not connected to that, and none of those people are connected to that, it's interesting that he pops up in the timeline of people like Tulsi Gabbard and Tim Pool, and even the MyPillow guy, whose name I'm also blanking on.
MyPillow?
Lindell.
Yeah, Mike Lindell. Yeah. It's interesting that there's this ex-KGB former mob affiliate suspected Russian fixer for the Russian government who is a linking connection between three people who otherwise wouldn't seem to have anything to do with each other, except for the fact that after they first met, allegedly, this man, each one of them started shifting their political views more conservatively, started shifting their talking points, and started spouting things that you also see on like actual Russian state media, like on actual Russian television, like
RT,
the shit that
you're talking about RT.
Yeah, something like that. Is that the main channel?
Yeah, RT Russia Today. That's the state.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. And there's some other story about like an old Tulsi Gabbard staffer who had to quit because of personal differences, and she apparently disclosed that like she would go in to like give Tulsi some documents in the office, and she'd be watching RT on the laptop, like straight up Russian state media, and would close it as soon as the assistant came in. And I was like, that's weird. That story's from 2016 when she was running as a Democratic.
Yeah, I don't think it's weird at all. I think these like people at that level should they banned RT in the United States during COVID. They also disabled all the comments section on Yahoo. They didn't want people talking about this at all. And I feel like
this was almost a decade ago.
RT, well, okay. There's two ways to kind of interpret this. There's the hopium QAnon approach, and there's the really black pilled sad approach to this.
Okay.
The hopium approach is that Russia isn't down with the whole globalist agenda, and they're the only kind of superpower in the world that has yet let that kind of outside influence into their country.
Okay.
And they've been, Putin, yes, ex-KGB, he's a spook, but he's running the country supposedly in a way to protect itself from outside influence that is that slow creep like wokeness, and that's the QAnon, which is why, during the whole Russiagate investigation, they were really quick to say, oh, anyone who likes QAnon or is into this realm of conjecture is a Russian asset, or they're Russian sympathizers. And the CIA, since day one, has used either the mob or the Russians as their boogeyman to cover up their own clandestine operations.
1,000%. Oh no, I definitely think you're onto something there. To say that like Russia is responsible for everything that gets posted on QAnon It's like, no.
No,
Like
it's insane.
Russia did not invent conspiracy theories. They did not invent the rumors about the Clintons. They did not invent American conservatism. But I think there is reasonable evidence to suggest that they looked at those ingredients that were already part of our community and kind of inflamed certain ones to things that have been advantageous for the Kremlin's political gains, right? Like,
Oh yeah, I mean, but that's not even unique to Russia. We all do. American.
of course.
Yeah.
Like it's America getting a taste of its own fucking medicine is what it is.
Pretty
But
much,
I have a hard time saying that that's not happening. I have a hard time saying that there aren't a troubling number of people in our federal government who I firmly believe are compromised by a foreign government. Like that feels fucking weird, dude. The way our country used to be in the Cold War, can you imagine telling that to any president from like 90 years, like from before 1990? Any US president, hey, how would you feel if any member of the federal government was even suspected to be a Russian asset? They couldn't even conceive of that. And now we have multiple people in
Yeah,
the
they
federal
did. They
government
had the
with that
McCarthy
allegation.
hearings.
I was
Yeah,
wondering about the
and guess
reference
what
to
they did
McCarthy. I was
during
like, you tell, that's the fuel he needed.
Yeah. Guess what they did during the McCarthy hearings? They went so overboard that they just started calling everybody a Russian sympathizer just to be safe, and a bunch of just like normal liberals got arrested for being Russian sympathizers.
Yeah.
But like, these people have had like investigations on them for a long time. I also
Have-
think the Russians are interfering in our propaganda and interfering in our elections has been used as a smokescreen to cover up our own government psyops through social media. That's
Absolutely.
1,000% sure. It's a very convenient excuse
Yeah.
for them. But I'm not going to say that Russian interference hasn't been happening. It's very obviously been happening.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd say ever since during the Cold War, that's what part of what the Cold War was and about, and even after the collapse of the Soviet Union, I mean, in some way, in some form, you're getting influence not just from Russia, but all these other countries. You know,
Yeah,
Have y'all seen that
especially in the
interview
age
with?
of the internet.
Have y'all seen that interview with the ex-KGB guy from the 70s? Essentially, he was a defector and he was being interviewed on American television, and he essentially said how the country was going to be taken over from the inside out.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm so
And
glad you brought that up.
I think that happened. It's just that like they don't like. I don't know if Russia would necessarily even need to implant people in the government because they had so many people situated in the universities at that time.
That's
And
true.
just the natural progression of like critical theory, that being taught, that mutating into more branches, of eventually got to the point to where our own people and our own administrations are old school, like mentally kind of in a Soviet kind of thinking, and Russia, who is no longer Soviet, you know, it's I don't know. Like it seems like Russia's been trying to go through a rebrand for the past couple of decades. Definitely not since the fall of the Soviet
so
Union.
is Japan.
Yeah.
And Japan, and you know, I wouldn't be surprised. They're very close to each other over there. I don't know.
I don't know. I think you're partially right, but I don't know that it's that black and white. I think that
It's not.
I think that this. Okay, I have a theory that I think when the Cold War ended, kind of both the dominance of the Soviet Union and the United States went out the window, and the U.S. has been pretending to have maintained global dominance since the early 90s, but we really haven't because our big boogeyman went away, and that was kind of our justification to do everything. I think
And our
9/11
motivation as well.
So
Well,
we had
they've
we had
had-
9/11, right? And that gave us a
Fact.
new boogeyman and a new motivation to maintain dominance. But I think it was all just a shell, and that was really the start of America starting to rot. I
Well,
think
they had a roadmap for all this shit going back to the 50s.
I know.
The dude before Alex Jones, I know I brought him up. His name is Bill Cooper.
Or Geraldo.
Yes.
No. Harald, no. Fucking Bill Cooper, he was the Alex Jones during the age of Clinton. Clinton even said he's the most dangerous man on the radio. And like he was ex-naval intelligence, lost a leg. He was talking a lot about UFO. Like this is the
but
thing.
he was
said,
dangerous because he was asking uncomfortable questions about the Clinton man.
and he was talking about in this too, you'll like this. He was calling out Alex Jones back in the day. because Alex Jones apparently on Y2K was reading shit like right off his fax machine, saying missiles were in the air, all this stuff is going on. And Bill Cooper got on the radio and said, "If you listen to this clown, you're a clown." Because he's just reading
verbatim,
it.
just like that.
that's
Just
fucking
like
awesome.
that.
He's not verifying anything. Anyway, but
Yeah.
Bill Cooper has got a lasting legacy in this whole sphere because he wrote a
Absolutely.
book called Behold the Pale Horse.
Yeah.
It's the #1 most stolen book that's ever been published, apparently. Fuck, where was I going with this? Oh, no, wait, I got it. My bad.
Those Irish car bombs, man.
He no Irish car bombs tonight. I'm perfectly sober, and that's sad. So this is the thing. He was in naval intelligence, and his superiors were having him research shit on UFOs. So he started off talking about UFOs and the reverse engineered tech and all that, secret space program, whatever. And then he realized that his superiors were lying to him. So he started researching the fraternal groups that some of his superiors were in. And he said that the real conspiracy is about these secret orders, secret oaths, secret societies that are really running the show. And he predicted 9/11, was murdered by cops on his front doorstep like a month after 9/11. But one of the things that he put out was this thing called the Iron Mountain Report, which he did not write, but he found evidence of. And I think since then has been proven to be a fake, but the roadmap that was outlined in it still is very compelling. Essentially, the military was talking about what are we going to do after World War II? Like how do we, a great way to run a country and to keep everyone united is to have an outside enemy, right?
Yep.
And to keep everyone's focus on that. So they were like, what the fuck are we going to do after World War II? And they said, okay, the #1 threat is going to go from fascism to communism, to terrorism, to
aliens.
Asteroids first, and then aliens.
Okay, sorry.
No, sorry.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
No, it's it was asteroids, Muppets, and then aliens.
Muppets. Miss
Muppets
Piggy.
Yeah.
I think that's certainly relevant.
got
But
those boards,
whatever like old world order, new world order, Illuminati roadmaps from the 20th century, I feel like really couldn't predict and really anticipate, even if they could predict the technology itself, really anticipate the scale of the internet. And I feel like, especially in the age of the internet, it feels like American politics has been hijacked as a proxy war between Russia and China. It really does feel like Russia has completely hijacked American conservatism and China has completely hijacked American liberalism. And what it means to be an American since the early 90s has become more and more of a question on everybody's minds, and nobody knows what to do about that.
I think the internet is the wild card. I think they underestimated just how much the internet really would move the needle.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Oh,
I mean,
always.
we're still the Wild West. Not as wild as it once was when the internet first started, but
the rules are still being written.
Oh yeah, as we're going, and how that's gonna form and recognize.
Hey, no more online censorship. I mean, that's a move in the right direction.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see if that maintains. I don't know. I
don't know if it'll
trust.
maintain either. But going back to Tulsi, what you were saying, like I like Tulsi. I like how she just dragged Kamala in that first presidential debate 4 years ago, because
I did too.
That was really good. The public needed to hear that. Kelsey, you know what we're talking about? You guys
do
know
not, dude.
Okay, so Tulsi Gabbard was running for president on her own in 2020, as was Kamala. And in the first debate, like, Tulsi called Kamala out for using prisoners in California for slave labor, essentially. Like, you're hearing stuff about how they're using them as firefighters in the Palisades right now.
Yep, they've been doing that for years. That's not
Kamala locked people up and used them for slave labor. And
to be fair, I don't think there is a. To be fair, I don't think that's just a California thing. I don't think there's a state in the union that doesn't do that. To be fair,
you ever heard of a chain gang?
Yeah,
for sure.
That's
working on the highway.
But the hypocrisy of we just got to run on what the fuck was her catchphrase? It wasn't hope. What did she use?
I
Joy.
don't
Prison
even
labor.
remember in the
We're-
2020 election.
No, for this most recent one. But this is a campaign of joy. Anyway, just I hate how that section of the political spectrum likes to put itself up on a pedestal as being completely humanitarian while also having this shit going on. And Tulsi called it out. Tulsi called
That
it
is
out. And even
exactly
the
what
Democratic
I was
crowd
reporting.
watching that clapped for her. That should have been the end of Harris's presidential fucking anything right then and there. But to your point, Tulsi was a part of some young World Economic Forum leaders thing, as
Okay,
was
hey.
Putin and Dan Crenshaw, the guy with the eye patch.
I'm just throwing it out there, but if I could have prison labor, wouldn't that make for a great personal hitman?
You could have a
You already
Suicide
know he
Squad.
can do the
You
job.
can give me a reduction on your sentence, and I'll go kill whoever you want. Dude, I bet that's happened a lot of times in this country. You never hear about that shit.
And you never will.
Yeah, you never will.
I never will.
Yeah.
Listen,
Uh,
here's what makes me suspicious. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're going, Carlos. Go ahead.
And the topic of Tulsi, one last thought is what makes me suspicious. In 2016, there were a bunch of people who were avid supporters of Bernie that were later found out to be foreign assets trying to destabilize Democratic unity. Even though Bernie should have been the candidate in 2016, one of those candidates is Tulsi, and I am immensely suspicious of anybody who at one point was all in on Bernie, because after she dropped out of the 2016 election, she fully endorsed Bernie and like went with him to campaign events.
Yeah.
To only 8 years later voting for Trump. Like, I don't care how anti-establishment you are, your values could not possibly go from full sending supporting both of those candidates in an 8-year span.
Well,
Unless your political leanings are maybe a little bit influenced by whoever's paying you the most in a given moment. I don't know.
well,
I know
here's
mine are.
the thing
Yeah.
that everybody
You're a real
The
American. Kelsey.
lobbyist right
That's
to
not
the
you.
T right there, big dog.
what usually gets called out is not that a lot of these people that have been traditionally Democratic who are now siding with Trump, their whole point, and I can relate to this, is not that their viewpoints changed, is that the Democratic Party and their viewpoints changed. They shifted what's called you know what the Overton window is?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I
The
know exactly
Overton-
what you're talking about.
Okay. Because look, I consider myself liberal growing up. Like I was fucking playing in bands, smoking dope. Like I was in the fucking South. You
All
know?
the things
Like
that
Yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
liberals do.
I had yeah. Well, they've now
King
I was
they've
making
now
a joke. Yeah, I
branched
know.
out.
I'm fucking with
They've
you,
now
Tubbs.
branched out to including so many other things. I'm surprised like huffing spray paint's not on it.
It is.
Yeah.
Listen,
After
Why do
dark.
you think I'm a bleed heart liberal? I want to huff some paint.
he helps so much blue paint that he bleeds blue.
Yeah.
I
When I'm
do-
at work, I want to just be able to turn around and just breathe into a bag and then help a customer.
with a silver face.
Thanks, thanks, man. What are you talking about? I know.
So the black,
you.
if no, like excluding hopium, the black pill, really terrible version of everything that's happening is they're all in on it. And
Oh, yeah.
they're pretending to be at odds with each other.
Yeah,
You know.
that is the weird creeping anxiety that I have too, huh? Yeah, I feel that.
But
All
what
day,
is
baby.
this uproar leading to? That's my question. Is what is this leading to?
Worldwide surveillance state.
Here, my
I
theory
think
on that.
social society. That's what my
Yeah, I think my theory on that is like there's always one big dominant empire determining world culture and economics at any point on this planet. And on average, they usually maintain that mantle for a few centuries, right? Like the British Empire was the dominant empire of the world for a few centuries. As soon as they stopped being the dominant empire,
Moves.
we swept right in. But our empire is reaching a similar age. Next year, America's going to turn 250.
So what do you think Trump's going to do? You think Trump's going to?
I don't
Get
think
us
Trump's.
all in the victory?
I'm not saying Trump isn't or isn't going to do anything. I'm just saying that every time
That's what I
before,
feel.
when the great empires collapsed, whether it was Britain or Rome, it happened in a dramatic, uncontrolled, and often violent descent. And the people who were in power before the collapse typically got fucked, no lube, hard, out of the annals of history. And I
French
think
Revolution.
that the elites for the last 50 years have been seeing that America's kind of getting close to that. And I think in their minds, if the descent and collapse of America is inevitable, maybe this time, because we see it happening beforehand, we can kind of make it a controlled descent, make sure all the pieces land in a way that's still beneficial to us being on top when all the dust settles. I think that ultimately the United States of America, as we know it, might not be long for this world, and
Yeah.
it's going to be chaos. And I think the powers that be are going to try to control that chaos in a way so that way the cards land in their favor when
Yeah.
it's all said and
We're
done.
going to be
I
scavengers.
think we'll
in
still
the
be
dust,
around, but
man.
not in the way that we know ourselves now.
Not
You know
as
what
we
I'm saying?
currently define
Specifically.
our country and have defined our country
We're
as
going
it
to be
is up until this
scavengers in
point.
the dust.
Because that's
we're
that's
gonna
more. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Shelby. Sorry.
No, I was just saying we're gonna be scavengers in the dust, man. Us common folk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because I mean, what it means to be, or what the idea of what America is, has obviously it's morphed several times in our history alone of what that is. Whether it is a loose collection of states, or to where we are now is one thing with different political parties. That idea has transformed countless times, and to see it into its finality, or
It's been,
to what
it's
we
been like
perceive as a
the Civil
finality
War, basically.
of
Yeah.
however that may, however that could, transpire. I don't know. I mean,
I think the possibility also is that this is all escalation that is out of control for every single group, no matter how powerful they are, because the race towards AI, like we're kind of witnessing all these little steps towards what they call the singularity. So we got AI, we got quantum computing coming out. I think it's more these power blocks are trying, like that's the arms race now. Because once we get to that point where we have all these different technologies converge on themselves, the concept of nations, the concept of
Money.
so
Money.
many things are going to go out the fucking window.
Jobs,
period.
End of sentence.
I can't wait to not work anymore.
You will eat the bugs.
I love it.
Yeah, then we'll just all gather around the nearest feudal warlord with the biggest muscles and the most guns, and we'll be back where we started.
Hence regional governors.
Yeah, no shit.
And all this talk, because you're right, nations and empires do have an expiration date, and you want to get a little bit woo-woo with it. That ties in with some astrology. So, typically, you can do birth chart stuff for nations and corporations. Like, if you want to launch a book, say you want to you can launch a project, say you want to publish a book, you can check out the astrology to see when would be the most opportune time to do that. It's very weird. But essentially where Pluto's the planet of death and transformation. America is getting its Pluto return, and this started last year.
Holy shit, I know what you're talking about.
So that does kind of indicate the fall of nations. So if Trump is making all these crazy moves, buying Greenland, buying Canada, this is almost like whatever faction he represents spitting in the face of physics. If they're trying to prep us up for something to where we still are the dominant superpower after the dust settles, that will be an insane feat. It's crazy.
I feel like the concept of dominant superpower is going to go out the window. I really feel like dominant superpower is going to get replaced with biggest corporation. Honestly.
That's what I was about to say. It's going to be a social war.
It'll be like Blade Runner, not in the fun, cool ways either, and the poor, we all eat worms sort of way.
Yeah, we'll live in pods, eat bugs. It'll be a social credit system.
Yeah,
I think they want to run the world that way, but this new tech, the way they're talking about this shit is really starting to freak me out, because they're talking about it like reality could start unraveling itself, man.
It's scaring the shit out of me too, man.
Yeah. All I know is if I don't have to work anymore, I'm down.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm just joking, man. I'm joking. I'm fucking with you. Okay.
I'll be euthanized at 45.
Right. This right here looks like a good enough place to wrap it up for the night. So give me just a moment so I can pull up the words. Final words. We'll go around the house. We'll call it a night. And I don't know, guys. We can maybe talk more about singularity next time, or we can find a fresh topic. But we got about 2 weeks to figure it out. So we'll start with Tusk, man. What are your final word for tonight, man?
I don't know. I'm not gonna tell people to buy emergency food. That's a dead horse.
Yeah, and it tastes awful.
Yeah.
Fucking
Ew. So shit like that always makes me think of the Patriots. Like, dog's a fine meal. I would say everybody, like, familiarize yourself with stuff like the singularity, what they're talking about with quantum computing and these quantum microchips, and the Internet of Bodies, because that's been dropped a couple of times. So, the Internet of Things, just consider the breakthroughs we're making with all these implants and whatnot. And, imagine yourself as being one of those hardware items plugged into that whole little network around your house. And that network feeds into the house next to you. And then the whole house feeds into the neighborhood and the city, so on and so forth. And yeah.
Get plugged, baby.
Think about get plugged. I'm done.
No, that was good, man. That was good. I really liked it. All right, Charles, I'm moving on to you.
I think my closing thoughts are kind of echoing what Tusk was saying about technology, but not just about technology. Technology and politics and global politics and social dynamics. I have a feeling like this year is going to be a very historically monumentous year for a lot of reasons. I think it's going to be a big year for AI, and I think it's going to be a big year for labor and jobs in general. I think it's going to be a very, very historically consequential year for politics for obvious reasons, both domestic and abroad. I think a lot of completely historically unprecedented shit is going to happen this year. Mm-hmm. And those things are going to set new precedents that affect the rest of our lives.
Yep. I feel you.
Keep an eye out.
Speaking of which,
wait, can I add on one more thing?
Yes, please.
My bad. What?
No. It's one of those things where even though it's final thoughts, you can talk to the other person. That's fine.
Well, I just realized there's another like really important little piece of vocabulary to throw in. Those things I listed: singularity, Internet of Things, quantum computing, all that. That overlay that you're talking about, Carlos, of political philosophy and them gaming all this stuff out is called cybernetics. Like, we hear the word cybernetic, we think of cyborg stuff.
Yeah, we think of
more. It's more about controlling vast swaths of the population, not just in their movements, but also in what they're thinking. And they were doing this shit back in the 40s. So,
yeah. I think it's also worth noting that people should do some research and educate themselves about political theater, about crisis theater, and one other third thing that I've already forgotten. So we can move on. Muppets from space. You got to keep an eye out for those fuckers.
Waka waka waka. All right, S man, it's your turn.
I'm gonna keep it down to earth. Don't get caught up in this technology. Just take it for what it's worth, and just be able to, like you just said, Kelsey, unplug. You know what I'm saying? Just take a deep breath once in a while. Just have some fresh air. That's what I'm trying to do. Trying to stay off some shit.
Yeah, don't be too dependent to it. Don't be too dependent.
But also just pay attention to surroundings, like Tusk and Carlo says. Politics is forever changing. You just got to keep up with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I appreciate it. I'm glad you said you're going to stay down to earth, because I'm not. All right. What I'm going to say. What I'm going to say is, you don't think there's some rich cabal going on, or there's the black pill and things aren't going on, and they're all in control and they're all on the same team. You don't think you think the Titanic was an accident. You think Luigi Mangione wasn't a fall guy. All right, here's a little fact for you, okay? Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon. What happens when you spell his name backwards? What does it spell? Norts, Mr. Alien. If that doesn't say anything, That doesn't blow your
Hell
fucking
no.
mind. Then I don't know what will.
Exposed. Neil Armstrong
God.
exposed
Hot
2025, not
damn.
clickbait.
He was amazing.
No cap, bro. No
I'd
cap.
also like to finish with the AI stuff, to touch on that real quick. Speaking of which we're saying watch out, look for. I know for a fact me, Carlos, and Tuss have published several songs on Suno for AI music. If you want to check it out so we can get popular and not have to work and stuff, you should
I have
do that.
not. Do not let me in there with.
I thought you did with some of the side projects you were doing. I thought you had worked, messed around with it, dabbled. Me and Carlos have.
I'm trying my
get on the
best
trend.
to keep it au natural.
That's lame. Anyways. I'm kidding. Hey, we love you guys.
You said you liked the music.
I was pretending. No, I'm just
Oh
kidding.
my
No, it is really good.
gosh. I like
Tuss
my
is
computer music more.
Now, even though Tust is a very private person, if you do know him in person and you're listening, actually he's a very talented man. He's got some other side stuff I can't tell you or link any of that because he's a private dude. But just got to trust me. This is a talented guy, and we're lucky to have you on as a reoccurring guest all the time. We have this podcast is Turtles All the Way Down, and we appreciate you. We also have the official podcast that should be resuming back next week. We have our own internet radio channel that's called Project 961 that we've been doing, and I have spots on it. So does Turkey, so does Bernie, and one of our favorite other reoccurring guests, Ryan Skrilla. Really cool dude, funny dude, comedian, and runs Comedy Works out of, I know he's from Cummins, Georgia, but I can't remember the exact area. So my bad on that, Ryan. Don't hate me for that. But we got that thing together. Our first week, we had 1,000 listeners. The week after, 1,700, and we're getting up to about 2,000 listeners per Bernie this week. So yeah, and this you want to catch old reruns or other episodes of this podcast? We actually play this podcast and the other podcast on the weekends on Project 961. So pretty please do check that out. It's totally worth it. And y'all stay safe out there in 2025.
Yeah,
We're
stay safe.
Yes, sir. And we're out. Y'all guys have a great night.
Trust the Tusk.